The Galactic Bonding Hall was the biggest room David had ever seen. It was so large that clouds formed near the ceiling. Lights floated in the air like small stars. Thousands of aliens filled the space. They came in all shapes and sizes. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some looked like living shadows. They all talked in loud voices that echoed off the crystal walls. David Park stood near the back of the crowd. He was 28 years old and worked as a junior ambassador for Earth. This was only his third month in space. He still got lost on the station sometimes. He still felt small when he stood next to aliens who were 3 times his size. But today was important. Today would change everything for humanity. Earth had only joined the galactic community 2 years ago. Humans were new. They were weak compared to the old species. They had no powerful weapons. They had no great wealth. The other species looked at humans the way adults look at children who wander into a business meeting. But today, humans had a chance to prove themselves. The Valari were offering their daughters for diplomatic marriages. This was a great honor. The Valari were old and respected. A marriage bond with them meant protection and trade rights. It meant that other species would have to take you seriously. David watched the stage at the center of the hall. 12 Valari females stood there in a line. They were beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Their skin was silver and smooth like metal. It glowed with soft inner light. Their eyes were like crystals filled with starlight. Their hair flowed like water made of moonlight. Each one stood perfectly still with perfect posture. The high matron of the Valari walked in front of them. She was older, but still beautiful. Her silver skin had lines of gold running through it. Her voice carried across the entire hall without any effort. "Today we offer bonds of union," she announced. "Our daughters will join with your finest representatives. This bond is sacred. It will link our peoples together." The choosing began. The most powerful species went first. This was the tradition that the Dravok Empire chose first. Their ambassador was a huge creature covered in red scales. He had 4 arms and teeth like knives. He walked to the stage and pointed at the tallest Valari female. She was almost 8 feet tall, with skin that glowed like a small sun. "This one," the Dravok said. "She will make strong offspring." The crowd made sounds of approval. It was a good choice. A powerful choice. Next came the Korvath Collective. Their representative was thin and gray with huge black eyes. He chose a Valari with the brightest glow. Her light filled half the stage. One by one, the powerful species made their choices. They picked the tallest, the brightest, the most beautiful. Each choice was met with nods and praise. The Valari who were chosen showed no emotion. They simply followed their new partners off the stage. David watched and waited. Humans were at the bottom of the list. They would choose last. This was expected. This was their place. Finally, his name was called. The crowd went quiet. Then whispers started. Then soft laughter. David heard words like primitive and animals and waste of time. He walked toward the stage. His heart beat fast, but he kept his face calm. He had learned this from his grandmother back on Earth. She always said that you should never let them see you sweat. Only one Valari remained on the stage. David looked at her and felt his breath catch in his chest. Not because she was beautiful. She was not. At least, not in the way the others had been. Her name was Lily. He would learn this later. But for now, he only saw what everyone else saw. She was short for a Valari, barely taller than David himself. Her skin was not silver. It was dull gray like old metal. It did not glow. Her eyes did not sparkle. They were dim like cloudy glass. Her hair hung limp and colorless. The Dravok ambassador made a loud noise that was probably a laugh. "Look, The humans get the broken one. How fitting. More laughter filled the hall. Even some of the Velari guards smiled behind their hands. The High Matron looked embarrassed. Human Ambassador, I apologize. This one is not our finest. If you wish, we can cancel the arrangement. No one would blame you. David did not answer right away. He was looking at Lily. Everyone else saw a defective product. A broken thing. But David saw something different. The other Velari females had stood with empty eyes. They looked pretty, but there was nothing behind their faces. No thoughts. No feelings. Just beautiful emptiness. But Lily was different. Her dim eyes were moving. They were watching the crowd. Studying faces. When the Dravok laughed at her, something flickered in her expression. It was fast. Most people would have missed it. But David caught it, thought it was intelligence. Sharp and quick and hidden. She was thinking. She was feeling. She was aware. David had grown up in a small town where people judged you by your clothes and your family name. He'd been the poor kid with the second-hand shoes. He knew what it felt like to be looked down on. He knew what it felt like to be underestimated. He also knew that the people who were overlooked often turned out to be the most interesting ones. David walked up the steps to the stage. The laughter in the hall grew louder. Someone shouted something cruel in a language he did not understand. He ignored it all. He stopped in front of Lily. Up close, he could see that her gray skin had tiny patterns in it. Like circuits. Like pathways. They did not glow like the others, but they were there. Her dim eyes met his. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then David did something that made the whole hall go silent. He bowed. A deep, respectful bow. The kind you give to someone you admire. I would be greatly honored, he said clearly, if you would accept this bond with me. The silence stretched for 5 heartbeats. Then the laughter exploded louder than before. Aliens slapped their appendages together. Some wiped tears from their various eyes, but David did not look at them. He only looked at Lily. And Lily, for the first time in her entire life, looked at someone who saw her. Her dim eyes changed. Just a little. Just enough. She nodded once. The bond was made. David Park, Junior Ambassador of Earth, walked out of the Galactic Bonding Hall with the ugliest Velari female at his side. Behind them, the laughter echoed off the crystal walls. None of them knew what they had just witnessed. None of them understood what had just begun. But they would learn. Soon enough, they would all learn. The Earth diplomatic vessel Horizon was not a large ship. It had only 20 rooms and a crew of 15 people. The walls were plain white metal. The floors were simple gray plastic. Compared to the golden ships of the Dravok or the crystal vessels of the Korvath, it looked like a flying box. But to Lily, it was the most wonderful place she had ever been. David gave her a room of her own. It had a bed with soft blankets. It had a window that looked out at the stars. It had a door that she could lock from inside. No one had ever given her a door she could lock before. On her first night aboard the ship, she waited for David to come. She sat on the edge of the bed in the formal dress the Velari had given her. She kept her hands folded in her lap. Her back was straight. Her eyes were down. This was how she had been trained. She waited for 1 hour. Then 2. Then 3. David did not come. The next morning, he knocked on her door. Lily, are you hungry? We have breakfast ready. She opened the door slowly. She was confused. You did not visit me last night. David tilted his head. Why would I visit you at night? You were sleeping. I was waiting for you, she said. For the bonding duties. David's face changed color. It turned pink. Lily had learned that this meant embarrassment in humans. Oh no, that is not. I mean, we do not have to. He took a deep breath. Lily, You are not here to serve me. You are here as a guest, a partner, not a servant. Lily did not understand. But I was given to you. I am yours. No, David said firmly. You are yours. You belong to yourself. I just wanted to give you a chance. A fresh start. He held out his hand. Come eat breakfast. The cook made something called pancakes. They are very good. Lily had never eaten pancakes before. They were soft and sweet. She ate 7 of them. Over the next few weeks, something strange happened to Lily. She began to relax. The tight feeling in her chest started to fade. The fear that lived in her stomach began to shrink. David asked her questions. Not commands, questions. What did she like to eat? What did she want to do? Had she ever watched Earth movies? Did she want to learn chess? No one had ever asked her what she wanted before. She started to talk. At first, just a few words. Then sentences. Then whole conversations. She told David about her life among the Valari. She was born different from her sisters. Her skin never turned silver. Her light never grew bright. But that was not the worst part. My mind works differently, she explained one evening. They were sitting in the observation room, watching stars drift past the window. I can feel things that others cannot. Energy, electricity, the signals that flow through machines and living things. When I was young, I thought everyone felt these things. I talked about them openly. What happened? David asked. Lily was quiet for a moment. They thought I was broken, defective. A Valari who thinks too much is considered damaged goods. We are meant to be beautiful, quiet, obedient. Not. She searched for the word. Not complicated. David nodded slowly. On Earth, we had similar problems. For a long time, people who were different were treated badly. People who thought differently. People who looked differently. It took us a long time to learn that different does not mean broken. Lily looked at him. You do not think I am broken? I think you are extraordinary, David said simply. I just do not think anyone gave you a chance to show it. That night, Lily cried for the first time in many years. But they were not sad tears. They were something else. Something she did not have a word for. The weeks turned into months. Lily learned about human culture. She watched their movies and read their books. She learned about their history, the wars they fought, the mistakes they made, the times they rose up and the times they fell down. She was fascinated by how messy human history was. Valari history was clean and simple. Beauty was valued. Ugliness was removed. There were no struggles because anyone who struggled was eliminated. But humans kept their strugglers. They celebrated them. Some of their greatest heroes were people who had been rejected and overlooked. Scientists who were laughed at. Artists who died poor. Leaders who started with nothing. We have a saying, David told her one day. Still waters run deep. Lily thought about this. It means that quiet things can have great depth? Exactly. The loudest person in the room is rarely the smartest. The brightest light is not always the warmest. He smiled at her. Sometimes the most special things are hidden where no one thinks to look. Lily felt something warm spread through her chest. It was an unfamiliar feeling. Pleasant. Safe. She began to test her abilities. With David's encouragement, she practiced sensing energy fields around the ship. She could feel the engines humming. She could sense communication signals passing through space. She could detect the electrical patterns in the brains of the crew. At first, the feelings were vague and fuzzy. But with practice, they grew clearer, sharper. She could tell when someone was lying by the change in their neural patterns. She could find broken wires inside walls. She could sense ships approaching before any scanner detected them. David was amazed. This is incredible, Lily. You are like a living sensor array. Among my people, this would be considered a sickness, she said quietly. Among my people, this would be considered a gift. Lily thought about this for a long time. A sickness and a gift were the same thing. The only difference was how others chose to see it. For her whole life, others had chosen to see her as sick. David was the first one to choose differently. She made a decision that night. A quiet decision that she kept in her heart. If David ever needed her help, she would give everything she had. She would use every part of herself. She would show the galaxy what a broken Valari could do. She did not know that the chance would come sooner than she expected. She did not know that dark forces were already moving against humanity. She did not know that everything was about to change. But she was ready. For the first time in her life, Lily was ready. The alarm came at 3 in the morning station time. Red lights flashed through the horizon. A loud buzzing sound filled every room. David jumped out of bed and ran to the bridge, still wearing his sleeping clothes. Captain Amy West was already there. She was a woman of 50 years with gray hair and tired eyes. But those eyes were sharp. They were the eyes of someone who had seen trouble before. "What is happening?" David asked. Captain West pointed at the main screen. It showed a message from the Galactic Council. The words were written in red, which meant emergency. Humanity is being accused of stealing classified military codes from the Dravok Empire, she said. Her voice was flat, controlled, but David could hear the fear underneath. What? That is impossible. We do not even know what their military codes look like. The evidence says otherwise. Captain West pressed a button. The screen changed to show a series of data files. These transmissions were traced back to our ship, to the horizon. The codes were sent from here to an unknown buyer 3 days ago. David felt his stomach drop. That cannot be right. No one on this ship would do that. We have nothing to gain and everything to lose. I know that. You know that. But the Dravok do not care. Captain West pulled up another message. They are demanding that the Council strip humanity of all diplomatic status. They want us banned from galactic space. And if we do not leave peacefully, she did not finish the sentence. She did not need to dot war. They were talking about war. David spent the next several hours sending messages to Earth. He contacted every human diplomat in the sector. He asked for help. He asked for advice. He asked for anyone who could prove that humanity was innocent. The answers he received were not helpful. Earth was too new, too weak. They did not have the technology to prove the transmissions were fake. They did not have the political power to demand a fair investigation. The Dravok were old and strong. When the Dravok pointed a finger, people believed them. We have 2 days, Captain West told David that evening. The Council meets in 2 days to decide our fate. If we cannot prove our innocence by then, everything is over. David sat alone in his quarters. He stared at the wall. He had worked so hard to get here. Humanity had worked so hard to reach the stars. And now it was all going to end because of a crime they did not commit. There was a soft knock on his door. "Come in," he said without looking up. The door opened. Lily stepped inside. She was wearing simple clothes now, not the formal Valari dresses. She had cut her gray hair short. She looked more comfortable, more herself, but tonight something was different about her. Her dull skin had a faint pulse to it, like a heartbeat made of light. "I know you are upset," she said quietly. "I can feel it. Your neural patterns are disturbed." David almost smiled. Almost. "I am more than upset, Lily. I am terrified. We are going to lose everything, and there is nothing I can do about it." Lily sat down next to him. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "I might be able to help." David looked at her. "How?" "I have been sensing things," she said slowly. Since we arrived at this station, I have been feeling the energy around us. Every signal, every transmission, every electrical pattern. I do it without thinking now. It is like breathing. She paused. Her dim eyes met his. The transmissions that accused your people. I felt them when they were sent. But they did not come from this ship. David sat up straight. What do you mean? The energy signature was wrong. When our ship sends a message, it feels a certain way, like a fingerprint. The signals that carried those stolen codes had a different fingerprint. They were made to look like they came from here, but they did not. Can you prove it? David's heart was beating faster now. Lily hesitated. I know where the real signal came from. I have traced its pattern. It leads to a ship docked on the other side of the station. Whose ship? Lily closed her eyes. The faint pulse in her skin grew slightly brighter. The Korvath delegate. The signals came from his private vessel. David stared at her. The Korvath. They were one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They had seemed friendly to humanity. They had even voted to accept humans into the galactic community. But now, why would the Korvath frame us? Lily opened her eyes. I do not know their reasons, but I know what I felt. The Korvath sent those transmissions. They made it look like humans were guilty. They want something to happen. Something bad. David stood up. He paced across the small room. His mind was racing. If the Korvath were trying to start a war between humans and Dravok, there had to be a reason. What would they gain? Territory? Resources? Power? He did not have time to figure out the why. He needed to focus on the what. Can you show the council what you felt? He asked. Can you make them understand? Lily was quiet for a long moment. Her gray skin pulsed slowly. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. I have never shown anyone what I can truly do. My people taught me to hide. They taught me that my abilities were shameful, wrong. She looked at David. I am afraid. David knelt down in front of her. He took her gray hands in his. They were cold, but he did not let go. I know you are afraid. I am afraid too. But Lily, you might be the only one who can save us. Not just me. Not just this crew. All of humanity. Every human child on Earth. Every dream we have ever had of exploring the stars. Tears formed in Lily's dim eyes. They rolled down her gray cheeks like drops of silver. You believed in me when no one else did, she whispered. You saw me when everyone else looked away. And I still see you, David said. I see who you really are. Now it is time for the whole galaxy to see. Lily took a deep breath. The pulse in her skin grew stronger. For a moment, just a moment, she almost glowed. Then I will show them, she said. I will show them everything. David smiled for the first time in days. That is all I ask. They had 2 days to save humanity. They had one chance to reveal the truth. Everything depended on a girl the galaxy called Ugly. The Galactic Council chamber was even larger than the bonding hall. It was built inside a hollow asteroid. The walls were smooth black stone that sparkled with tiny crystals. Gravity platforms floated at different heights, each one holding delegates from different species. At the center was a raised stage where those who spoke to the council would stand. David walked toward that stage with Lily beside him. He could feel hundreds of eyes watching them. Some of those eyes were curious. Most were hostile. A few were amused. He heard whispers as they passed. The humans brought their defective bride. What can she possibly offer? This will be entertaining, at least. David ignored them all. He focused on the stage ahead. He focused on putting one foot in front of the other. His hands were shaking, but he kept them at his sides. The High Chancellor of the Council, sat on a floating platform above all others. He was an ancient creature with blue skin and 6 eyes. His voice was like rumbling thunder when he spoke. Human Ambassador David Park, you have requested an emergency session to present evidence of your innocence. The council will hear you, but be warned. If your evidence is weak, the consequences will be severe. David bowed his head respectfully. I understand, High Chancellor, and I thank the council for this opportunity. He turned to face the assembled delegates. There were hundreds of them. Dravok with their red scales, Korvath with their gray skin and dark eyes, Valari with their silver glow, and many others whose names David did not know. 2 days ago, humanity was accused of stealing classified military codes from the Dravok Empire. The evidence seemed clear. Transmissions were traced to our ship. Data files showed the theft happening in real time. He paused. The chamber was completely silent. But this evidence was manufactured. We were framed. And I have brought a witness who can prove it. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not loud laughter. Just soft sounds of disbelief and mockery. The Dravok ambassador rose from his platform. His scales gleamed red under the chamber lights. A witness? What witness could the humans possibly have? They are babies in the galactic community. They have no allies, no supporters, no one who would speak for them. I have someone, David said calmly. My bonded partner, Lily of the Valari. The laughter grew louder. Delegates turned to each other and made comments David could not hear. The Dravok ambassador showed his knife teeth in a cruel smile. The broken one? The defective bride that no one wanted? He shook his massive head. Human, you insult this council. That creature is barely functional. What could she possibly know? David felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. With respect, Ambassador, I believe you will change your opinion very soon. He stepped aside and gestured for Lily to come forward. She walked slowly to the center of the stage. Her gray skin looked even duller under the bright chamber lights. Her colorless hair hung limply around her face. She was small and plain and nothing like the radiant Valari who stood among the delegates above. The High Matron of the Valari spoke from her platform. Her voice was cold. This one was given to humanity as a gesture of minimal respect. She's not a true Valari. Her words carry no weight. Lily looked up at the matron. Her dim eyes were steady. I may not carry weight among our people, matron, but I carry truth. And today, truth will have to be enough. She turned to face the full council. David could see her hands trembling slightly, but her voice was clear when she spoke. The transmissions that accuse humanity were fake. They were created to look real, but they were sent from a different source. I know this because I felt them. Confused murmurs filled the chamber. Felt them? The High Chancellor leaned forward. Explain yourself, young one. Lily took a deep breath. The faint pulse in her gray skin grew stronger. David could see it now. The patterns under her surface began to light up. I was born with what my people call a defect. My mind can sense energy, electromagnetic fields, the signals that flow through machines and living things. When a transmission is sent, I feel it like you feel wind on your skin. Every signal has a unique pattern, like a voice, like a fingerprint. She raised her hands. The patterns on her skin began to glow brighter. Not silver like other Valari, but something deeper. Something that looked like living lightning trapped beneath her surface. I have spent months on this station sensing every signal around me. I know the fingerprint of the human ship Horizon. I know how its communications feel. Lines of light spread across her body. They trace paths like circuits, like rivers of electricity flowing through her. Her dim eyes began to shine with inner power. The signals that carried the stolen codes did not come from the human ship. They were designed to look that way, but the energy pattern was wrong. The real source was elsewhere. The chamber had gone completely silent. Every eye was fixed on Lily, on the gray girl who was no longer gray. She was becoming something else, something no one had ever seen before. I traced the true source, Lily continued. Her voice was stronger now. It echoed through the chamber without any amplification. The signals came from a ship docked at Section 47 of this station. A private vessel registered to the Korvath Collective. Gasps filled the chamber. Heads turned toward the Korvath delegation. The gray-skinned aliens looked at each other with their huge black eyes. Lies. The Korvath delegate stood suddenly. This is absurd. A defective Valari making wild accusations based on imaginary powers? Lily turned to face him. The light flowing through her body pulsed brighter. You want proof? I will give you proof. She closed her eyes. The energy in her body surged outward. It filled the chamber like invisible waves. And suddenly, everyone could see what she saw. Images appeared in the air above the stage. Not holograms from a projector. These came directly from Lily's mind, made visible through her power. They showed the Korvath ship sending signals. They showed the careful work of creating false evidence. They showed secret communications between the Korvath delegate and unknown buyers. They showed everything. The Korvath delegate made a sound of terror. He tried to run, but guards were already moving toward him. Other Korvath delegates shouted in confusion and fear. The High Chancellor raised one of his many arms. Silence. Guards, secure the Korvath delegate. This evidence must be examined carefully. The red-scaled Dravok ambassador stared at the images floating in the air. His knife teeth were hidden now. His expression was something David had never seen on a Dravok face before. It was shame. The humans. He said slowly. The humans were innocent. Lily lowered her hands. The images faded. The light in her body dimmed back to its usual soft pulse. She looked exhausted, but she was smiling. David rushed to her side and caught her as she swayed. You did it, he whispered. Lily, you did it. She looked up at him with tired eyes. No, she said quietly. We did it together. The chamber erupted into chaos. Questions were shouted. Accusations flew back and forth. Guards dragged the Korvath delegate away while he screamed about being framed himself. But in the middle of it all, David and Lily stood together on the stage. The human and the broken Valari. The two that everyone had laughed at. They were not laughing anymore. 3 weeks had passed since Lily revealed the truth to the Galactic Council. 3 weeks of investigations and trials and changes that no one had expected. The Korvath plot was fully exposed. They had planned to start a war between humanity and the Dravok Empire. While the two species destroyed each other, the Korvath would have moved in to take territory from both sides. It was a plan that had been building for years. It would have worked perfectly, except for one small thing. A human who chose the wrong bride, and a broken Valari who turned out to be not so broken after all. The Korvath Collective faced heavy sanctions from the Council. Their trade routes were restricted. Their military was reduced. Several of their highest leaders were moved from power. It would take them generations to recover their standing in the galactic community. The Dravok, to everyone's surprise, offered a formal apology to humanity. The red-scaled ambassador who had mocked David at the bonding hall came to the horizon personally. He brought gifts of rare metals and a promise of future friendship. We were wrong about your people, he said in his deep rumbling voice. We thought you were weak because you were new. We thought you were foolish because you chose what we rejected. But you saw what we could not see. That takes a different kind of strength. David accepted the apology gracefully. He did not remind the Dravok of their cruel laughter. He did not mention the names they had called him and Lily. That was not the human way. At least, not the best of the human way. But the biggest change came from the Volari. The High Matron requested a private meeting with David. They met in the quiet garden on the station where flowers from 100 worlds grew in careful arrangements. The matron looked older than she had at the bonding hall. Tired. Troubled. "I must ask you something," she said without any greeting. "How did you know? When you chose Lily, how did you know that she was special?" David thought about the question for a long moment. "I did not know," he admitted. "Not for certain. But I saw something in her eyes that I did not see in the others. She was watching, thinking. Everyone else seemed empty. Beautiful, but empty. Lily was different." "Different," the matron repeated. She looked away at the strange flowers. "Among our people, different has always meant defective. We breed for perfection, for beauty, for obedience. Those who do not meet our standards are cast aside." She turned back to David. Her golden-lined face was sad. "We have thrown away so many like Lily, so many who might have had gifts we never imagined. We were so focused on what we wanted them to be that we never saw what they could become. It is a mistake many species make," David said gently. "Humans made it too. For a long time. Sometimes we still do. But we try to learn. We try to do better." The matron nodded slowly. "Perhaps we have much to learn from humanity. You are young and small and weak by galactic standards. But you see things that older species have forgotten how to see." She paused. When she spoke again, her voice was formal, official. "The Volari Collective would like to establish a new agreement with Earth. Not just a single bonding, but a true alliance. We believe that our peoples working together could benefit greatly from each other." David felt warmth spread through his chest. This was more than humanity had hoped for. More than anyone had thought possible. "I will bring your offer to my government," he said. "But speaking personally, I believe they will say yes." The matron almost smiled. "I thought they might." That evening, David found Lily in the observation room of the horizon. She stood at the large window, watching the stars. Her gray skin had changed over the past weeks. It was not silver like other Volari. It would never be silver. But it had a soft glow now, a warm light that came from inside her. "The matron spoke to me today as well," Lily said without turning around. She apologized. She said that the Volari had been wrong about many things. About difference. About beauty. About what truly matters. David stood beside her at the window. "How do you feel about that?" Lily was quiet for a moment. "I feel complicated. For so long, I wanted them to accept me. I wanted to be seen as worthy. Now they see me, and I do not know how to feel." "You do not have to forgive them," David said. "Not if you are not ready. Some wounds take time to heal. I know." Lily finally turned to face him. Her eyes were not dim anymore. They glowed with soft inner light. "But I think I understand something now." They were afraid. Afraid of what they could not control. Afraid of what they could not understand. Fear made them cruel. She reached out and took David's hand. Her skin was warm now. It had not been warm when they first met. "You were not afraid," she said. "When everyone else saw something broken, you saw something special. That is a gift, David. A rare gift." David smiled. "I just saw what was there. I did not invent it. You were always special, Lily. I just gave you a chance to show it." "No," Lily said firmly. "It was more than a chance. You believed. When I did not believe in myself, you believed enough for both of us. That belief gave me strength. It made me brave enough to become what I was meant to be." She squeezed his hand. "On Earth, they will tell this story. The story of how a young ambassador saved humanity. They will call you a hero." David shook his head. The story is not about me. It is about you. You saved us all. Then perhaps the story is about us, Lily said. About what happens when someone chooses to see value where others see none. About what becomes possible when people are given a chance. David looked out at the stars. Billions of lights scattered across the infinite black. Somewhere out there was Earth. Somewhere out there were humans looking up at the same stars, wondering what the future would hold. They called you the ugliest, he said quietly. They laughed when I chose you. Yes, Lily agreed. They did. They are not laughing anymore. Lily smiled. It was a beautiful smile. Not because of how it looked, but because of what it meant. It meant joy. It meant peace. It meant hope. No, she said. They are not. They stood together at the window, the human and the Valari, watching the stars drift by. Behind them, the ship hummed with quiet life. Ahead of them, the galaxy waited with all its wonders and dangers and possibilities. They had started as a joke. The weak species and the broken bride. The choice that everyone mocked. But the galaxy had learned something important. Something that humans had known for a long time, even if they sometimes forgot it. The ones who are overlooked are often the most precious. The ones who are rejected are often the most powerful. And sometimes, just sometimes, the ugliest choice turns out to be the most beautiful decision ever made. David and Lily did not know what the future would bring. More challenges, probably. More enemies. More chances to prove themselves. But they would face it, together. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.